The ground shudders violently beneath their boots, and a deep thrumming growl vibrates through the cavern walls. Dust falls from the ceiling and the air grows thick with the acrid stench of soil and decay. From the darkness below, a monstrous, writhing shape erupts, its segmented body carving through the rock and dirt as if Earth itself obeys it. Rows of jagged, glistening teeth glint as its massive maw opens, and the adventurers catch a glimpse of the terror before them, hungrier and primal instinct radiating from each twitch of its massive form. Panic grips their hearts as the creature surges forward, each undulating movement sending tremors through the ground. Spells are readied, swords are drawn, and arrows are nocked, but even as they prepare to strike, a chilling truth settles over them. They're not facing a mere beast, they're staring down a force of nature, relentless and unstoppable, that has risen from the very depths to challenge them. Yes, today we are covering the notorious Purple Worm. Hello and welcome to Dungeon Deep Dive, where we talk about all things D&D monsters, from monsters and their lore to their publication history, and how you can use them in your D&D games. The Purple Worm is the equivalent to this day and age earthworm, jacked up on all the steroids known to mankind. They are enormous worm-like creatures with a large, multi-layered chitinous hide plating that is dark purple in hue. Its maw is filled with teeth that can rip through anything, and a huge poisonous tail on the other end. When a purple worm becomes fully grown, they can grow anywhere from 5 feet to 9 feet in diameter and between 80 to 150 feet in length, which is around half the size of Big Ben. With them having no limbs, the way they move around is by compressing and expanding their bodies like any other worm, making them glide across the ground and makes them capable of sudden speed. There are a couple subspecies of the purple worm. There is the desert purple worm that you can imagine lives in the desert terrains and tends to travel in groups. The mottled purple worm are known to be solo hunters and have very similar characteristics to the original purple worm, but they are instead fond of shallow bottom muck areas and occasionally come to the surface to hunt prey. Purple worms are not the most intelligent creatures. They have a very instinctual, animalistic intelligence. So with the combination of them having no eyes, they just tend to attack anything and everything that makes any noise or vibrations near them. The basic purple worm calls the underground its home, only erupting onto the surface when it senses movement nearby. Their jaws are so strong that they can clear through solid rock with ease just to get to their prey. This gives them the ability to make many tunnels in the Underdark as they travel, creating interesting walkways and tunnels to sometimes undisturbed locations in the Underdark. They don't really make intricate tunnel networks, they tend to just travel and break through everything to get to where they need to be. In doing this, they can become a menace to other creatures like Drow, Duragar, and the Kuatoans that call the Underdark their home. It is rare to see a purple worm hunting in pairs. They are primarily solitary creatures, and when they need arises, create caverns called nurseries to lay their eggs. These nurseries can sometimes form a sort of symbiotic relationship with other creatures of the Underdark, primarily scavengers that lurk in the lair that hunt any creatures that stumble upon the nursery to hunt for the eggs. The most common creature to do this is the giant spider, as they have no interest in the worm's eggs, but sometimes Fomorian giants develop a relationship with the worm, becoming the caretakers of the eggs. Now, the eggs themselves sit at around 3 feet in diameter, and they look like silvery spheres with extremely hard shells. They tend to be clustered in groups of 6 and are usually stuck to the walls of their chamber with stickier saliva. When the purple worm eggs eventually hatch, their young, known as purple wormlings, would start at around 9 feet long and weigh around 1,500 pounds. As you can imagine from how they look, they are carnivorous and predators who devour whatever organic matter they come across. However, when tunneling, the purple worm devours all the rock and dirt that they dig through, which is then broken down and excreted constantly through their body. If they manage to digest mineral-rich areas in the Underdark, they would leave castings of unrefined ores, precious metals, and gemstones. If you are unlucky enough to get into a fight with one of these beasts, well, not really beasts, they're more monstrosities, there is a good chance that someone, if not everyone, will be swallowed whole. If you would be swallowed, then you would then be crushed and dissolved in the stomach acid, but if you somehow manage to dodge being swallowed, then don't think you're safe because the huge stinger packs a debilitating venom. Okay, now let's go over the publication history of the purple worm and then cover the stat block and a homebrew stat block variant I've created for you to use in your D&D games. The purple worm made its first appearance in the first edition 1974 Dungeons and Dragons white box in the book 2 Monsters and Treasures. In the book it says there are huge and hungry monsters lurking nearly everywhere, just just beneath the surface of the land that only reach 50 feet in length, which is under half the size of the full-size 5e worm. It says they can swallow ogre-sized monsters with ease, and any creature who is swallowed only has 6 turns before they are dead and then digested in 12 turns. The purple worm then appears in the 1977 Holmes Basic set and the 1981 Moldvay Expert box set, and then again in the 1993 Menzer Expert rules. In these books, the worms actually double in size to 100 feet, but most of the information in these books is the same as the previous, but we do get info on the stinger saying that if they get hit by the stinger and you fail the saving throw, you just die. No damage rolls, no saving throws, just death. We also get the purple worm in the 1991 Rules Cyclopedia book, and even though there's no information on this magnificent monstrosity, we do get some badass art of them on the front cover of the book. Moving on, we get the purple worm in the 1977 Monster Manual, where they get again reverted back to the max of 50 feet in size. And even though it did get a size reduction, don't let that fool you, this thing can still go for a bite and swallow you very easily. All the rules for being swallowed remain the same, with being dead, and if you're still in the stomach after 6 rounds, you are then fully digested after 12 rounds. So all that is still the same. The book does tell us that if you are swallowed, you're not completely done for. You can try and fight your way out with the inside of the worm only having a 9 AC to hit. We also get a smidgen of information on the mottled worm, describing where you can find these variants. Now moving on to 2nd edition, we get the purple worm in the 1989 Monstrous Compendium Volume 2 and the 1993 Monstrous Manual, where instead of a single stat block, we get introduced to the worm family in its own category. This is the time where they gain another growth spur and grow to their current 150 feet in length. Some of the rules on the swallowing and digestion of adventurers has been slightly changed. If you're swallowed, you still have the 6 rounds to escape before death gets its hands on you, but after that you only have 1 hour to escape, which is slightly less time than 12 rounds previously. You get information saying that the purple worm only seeks other worms to mate, then never to see each other again, and once the little purple tapeworm is born, it will instantly bury to the ground, never to be seen by the parents or the parents to see the child again. We also learn that their lairs are a treasure trove of raw ores, metals, and gems, so if you're lucky enough to stumble upon an empty one, grab and run before the mother returns. The mottled worm makes another appearance in the book, but with no new information, but we do get introduced to the Dune equivalent of the purple worm, the Thunder Herder. These things travel in herds of 10 to 100, several feet below the sand. Luckily, these are not 100 plus feet in length, instead they only range from 5 to 10 feet. Moving on to 3rd edition, we get the purple worm in the 3rd edition Monster Manual. In the manual, they are described as scavengers who eat everything and anything organic. Even though just the look of the purple worm alone is terrifying, the thing that people feared the most was its ability to swallow the D&D party whole. In 3rd edition, it says that when the purple worm is in combat, it tends to coil 20 feet in diameter, biting and stinging anything that comes near it. All we get in the book is the purple worm and no information on the sandworm or the mottled worm. We also get some small section on the purple worm in a particular guide to monsters, where we get some pretty creepy art, as well as a small stat block of facts about our worm, as well as a section that says best defense, which states you should cover yourself in grease to make it harder for the worm to grab you. Next, we get the purple worm in the Dragon magazine number 282, and I'll just say that the cover of the magazine is interesting, but upon reading more into the magazine, this is actually an April Fool's edition. We get a whole section in the magazine called The Ecology of the Purple Worm, where we follow a group of monster hunters fighting a purple worm. Even though it's a funny story, we do get some decent information in regards to the worm itself, like for example, the purple worm are hermaphrodites and reproduce by laying in opposite directions so their sexual organs line up. Then after the deed is done, they then retreat back to their respective layers to lay their eggs. It tells us that purple worm dung is actually very rare and sought after because of the materials and ores left behind in it. Moving on to 4th edition, we get the worm in the 2008 Monster Manual. Not a lot of information again is shared in this book, but they are called enormous burrowing predators. It does reiterate that purple worms are lone hunters that have a habit of third-partying any combat that it feels the vibrations from, and for some reason they do lose their ability to use or even have a stinger. We do however get a stat block for the elder purple worm, as if the normal purple worm wasn't enough. It has the same moves and abilities as the normal worm, but just stronger. We also get the purple worm in the 2010 Monster Vault book, and we actually get 2 versions here. We get the adult purple worm and the purple worm tunneler. It says that they are unintelligent beasts that are attracted to loud noises and have no regard to other creatures. It says that these creatures are the reason for so many tunnels and caverns in the Underdark, and are usually safe to travel as purple worms don't usually return to previous tunnels they've made. Although make too much noise in those echoing tunnels and maybe you'll make one return. It says that they can go for days without eating and have a habit of appearing for travelers in the worst possible time. With this, all creatures who live in the Underdark tend to ward their homes with special wards to fend off the purple worms. Purple worms are so feared that denizens of the Underdark will try and sabotage each other's wards so the purple worm would attack their enemies. There are some people who are rumored to have mastered the ability of manipulating the purple worm either with magic or brute force to tame these creatures and use them for war. Although there has been no reports of a permanent dominance of a purple worm, they always do tend to end in disaster. And finally, moving over to 5th edition, we get the art that we all know and love in the 2014 Monster Manual. Nothing really new is said about this behemoth of the Underdark, but that it is again one of the most feared creatures in the Underdark, and no one is safe from its ravenous hunger. Okay, now we've gone over the publication history, let's go over the stat block and the homebrew variant I've created for you guys to use in your games. First off with the official, the purple worm has an AC of 18 with 247 hit points, and its walking speed, if you can call it that, is 50 feet with a burrowing speed of 30 feet. So this thing can get around pretty quick. It has saving throws in con and wisdom and has blind sight for 30 feet and tremor sense for 60 feet, so tread very lightly. It has an ability called Tunneler where the worm can burrow through solid rock, and half of its burrowing speed leaves a 10-foot diameter tunnel in its wake. And for the actions, it has a multi-attack where it can make 2 attacks, one with its bite and one with its poisonous stinger. The bite has a plus 14 to hit with a reach of 10 feet and deals 3d8 plus 9 piercing damage, and if the target is a large or smaller creature, it must succeed on a DC 19 dexterity saving throw or be swallowed by the worm. A swallowed creature is blinded, restrained, has a total cover against attacks and other side effects outside of the worm, but it does take 6d6 acid damage at the start of each of the worm's turns. But if the worm takes 30 damage or more in a single turn from the creatures inside it, the worm must succeed on a DC 21 Constitution save at the end of that turn, or regurgitate all swallowed creatures, which then fall prone in a space within 10 feet of the worm, just for it to gobble them back up. However, if the worm dies, a swallowed creature is no longer restrained by it, but it can escape from the corpse by using 20 feet of movement, exiting prone. And for the stinger, it has a plus 14 to hit with a reach of 10 feet and deals 3d6 plus 9 piercing damage, and the target must succeed on a DC 19 Constitution saving throw, or take 12d6 on a failed save and half as much on a success. 12d6, these things are no joke. And now for the homebrew variant. I have recently gone through a phase of reading up on the Shadowfell, so I came up with the idea of what if a purple worm tunneled a little too deep into the Underdark and accidentally became corrupted by the energies of the Shadowfell. Meet my baby, the Umbral Maw, a shadow-touched purple worm. It has an AC of 19 and 270 hit points, and it has saving throws in con and wisdom, and has damage resistance to necrotic damage and bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical attacks, with an immunity to poison and the poison condition, as well as being frightened. I did give it all the same senses as the normal purple worm, as I didn't feel like they needed to really be changed. With it being touched by the Shadowfell, I thought a fun ability would be a Shadow Glide ability, where as well as tunneling if it so chooses, while in dim light or darkness, the Umbral Maw can move through solid objects and creatures as if they were difficult terrain. If it ends its turn inside an object, it takes 10 force damage. I also gave it an ability called Aura of Dimming, where non-magical light within 60 feet of it is reduced by half, and magical lights require a DC 15 spellcasting ability check to function normally, just from the pure shadowy presence the worm gives off. And for the actions, I haven't really changed that much because I didn't feel like it needed a lot of adjustment because it was powerful already. It can make a multi-attack where it can make 3 attacks this time instead of 2, and it can make a bite, a stinger, and a slam attack. The bite has a plus 14 to hit with a reach of 10 feet and deals 3d8 plus 9 piercing damage plus 2d8 necrotic damage. And if the target is larger or smaller, it doesn't succeed on a DC 19 dex save, guess what? Is swallowed. All the swallowing rules are basically the same, except for when a creature is swallowed, as well as the 6d6 acid damage, they also take 4d6 necrotic damage while inside the worm. For the slam attack, it has a plus 14 to hit with a reach of 10 feet and deals 3d10 plus 9 bludgeoning damage. And if the target is larger or smaller, it must succeed on DC 18 strength save or be knocked prone. And finally for the stinger, again with a plus 14 to hit and a 15-foot reach, and deals 3d6 plus 9 piercing damage plus 6d6 poison damage. If the target doesn't succeed on a DC 19 con save, they become shadow poisoned which gives them disadvantage on attack rolls. Light sources they carry emit no light. Those are savable after each turn. These things are great encounters for any D&D party that I feel like are starting to get a little bit too comfortable and you want to keep them on their toes. You can do a classic where the party are traveling in the Underdark and their voices are echoing down the tunnel until they begin to feel the ground tremble as a purple worm follows the vibrations of their voice. Or you can have it where the party finds a large cavern in the mountains with bones scattered everywhere but no monster inside. But before you could realize it, they've stumbled right into a purple worm lair. That is all I have for you guys today on the purple worm. Thank you all for watching. I hope you found this video helpful, and if there's anything that I've missed, I would love to hear about it in the comments. What monster would you like to see me cover next? Let me know in the comments below and I will add your comment at the end of that video. If you've enjoyed, be sure to drop a like and a cheeky sub if you haven't already. They help a lot more than you realize. Thank you all again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.